work? You guys use Zoom?
Hello and welcome everybody to the BAMS cast. We are coming to you on a Saturday morning. I did not set an alarm. I usually am woken up by my kids, but it seemed like everybody was sleeping in and checked my phone and was like, "Oh, we got to record in 2 minutes." So, I'm puffy, I'm lethargic, and that's fine. And actually, when I look over to the commish, I see a man who's probably been up for hours, is fueled up on coffee. When I look at this league right now, we're talking about only three teams below 500 out of the 12. We've got nine in contention. As many sacks as Caleb Williams last week. This is what we're talking about, boys. It's a dogfight. Commish being at, I believe, 5-5. How are we doing overall in our lives, in BAMS? Set the stage.
Yeah, so my goal in the morning and typical routine is to the point where I would be up here for a couple hours, and I would have coffee in me. However, and I just want to say congratulations to one of our own. We celebrated Danny's Banged Gang and Mr. Polanka last night, who got married to the wonderful Emily. So him, myself, and Grimmer were in the city at Polanka's wedding last night. So I don't have coffee in me. I haven't been up for 2 hours. This is a iced coffee with some matcha powder in it. I call it mud because I don't put anything else in it. It tastes like garbage, but it gets the job done.
You
But
look
everything's
good.
great. Everything's great. Thank you. Thank you. I had to put a hat on because the hair was kind of all over the place because I too am kind of just out of the bed. However, let's talk fantasy football. You said 9 teams in contention. Not only that, it's a real clean standings. We got 3 teams with 7 wins, 3 teams with 6, 3 teams with 5. No one's running away with this. Everyone's in contention. And it's really a matter of looking ahead at the schedules, who's playing who gets to play the teams that sold, who's where are the big matchups. I am part of one of those this week against Fiana. But looking ahead, I got Hardo next week. So I'm balancing that with also a team that's half out for buys. So I feel like this is a must win for me. They're all must wins at this point in the stage, but everything's good. And we have a trade recap special episode here. So I think we should go through the spreadsheet and just update that kind of an abbreviated version so we have more time to talk trades. If that sounds good,
I love it.
we can talk everything. But before we get into that, and anything else you wanted to add for matchups last week? Anything that stuck out? I don't think we're going to go into depth on matchups. But did anything stick out to you that you want to cover?
Oh, not at all.
Okay.
As you can imagine, I'm not checking the scores as closely in terms of my team's odds of winning and what's happening within the league and the matchups. So good job out there, everybody.
Keep it up. You're doing great. Okay, so can you see the spreadsheet? Do I got it up here?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Um, let's start with Survivor because that's in focus this weekend. We are down to 2 teams. The third team there was Spurs and Ford, who was just hanging around by a thread. He sold off, and so the odds were against him last week to fall out of Survivor, and indeed that's what happened. So this weekend we have what are we up to? $75 is on the line between Nick Star of the All Throws and Jay Rin Fiana for that Survivor pool. So that's exciting. Last week, Groles took down his fourth, I believe. Yeah. So Groles already has his money back. He's got 220 banked already before the season even ends. He's won 4 out of 10 weeks, and he's rolling, Tim. He's got 28 points ahead of me, 29 ahead of Nick Star. And so that most total points, that's a 200 pot there. That's still up for grabs with what are we on? 11, 12. We got 4 weeks left for that. One of the first things Dan said last night when I saw him was he thanked me for all the points against him. He is leading the unlucky points against. He is holding strong. I asked him, I pressured him a little bit to get on this morning. He's like, yeah, I'll just wake Em up and be like, I'm going to go talk fantasy football the first morning of our marriage. So I wouldn't put it past him, but I also think that's a valid excuse if we don't see Polanka this morning. um,
he,
let's
he
see.
hops on with like a mimosa.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
they came to our hotel room as complimentary, and he's just
they're
going
in
solo dolo.
big white robes.
But yeah, I mean, we've said this phrase before in the past, but girls rolls, and that's like the girls Royce is rolling right now. The
Yeah.
team, and I think it's like we get concerned year to year of a team loading up, or they sold so heavy last year, and they're buying so heavily this year, and we're always concerned about a monopoly of just a team is going to run away and make all of the money in the league. Probably, again, I feel like the most money we'll ever see is what Ford did last year, where we racked up over a G. But I mean, like, I think
Yeah.
it's just calling out that this predictability of people feeling like the wind comes out of their sails about there's just going to be some dominance. Like, it is just quite unpredictable, highly volatile of what happens in this league. And I want to give credit to Grohl too, because he dealt with that volatility. He did deal with injuries, and he has been playing in between that like more narrow spot of buying and selling instead of a massive sell year and a massive buy year, more of my model. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like giving credit to all of the micro moves that he's making to kind of just be that cornerstone of this league that's always towards the top, it seems. So shout out him, just doing it again.
Yeah. Um,
Oh,
I had a
and I had one more
yeah.
comment, which was to
Yeah.
Polanka. Familiar position of being towards the bottom of the league. It is quite nice when you can start rooting for the points against as some sort of cushion to having a year lost that maybe you begin at a certain point rooting for other teams to just rack up on you so that you
Mm-hmm.
can come away with some dollars to your name from this year in the league.
It'll be interesting. We have. I feel like when you look at the standings, those 7 and 6 win teams, you got Derek, Grimmer, Growley, Boyle, Fiana, and Alto. I feel like they've been playoff teams all year. Like it's
Yeah.
going to be interesting. Like I don't see myself as like I don't view it as like a playoff team. I don't think I've ever been in it. Shea, I don't think has maybe early on, but like and then like Tomarin is also competing, and he's kind of had like a down year as far as things not working in his favor. So it'll be interesting if and how many of these 5 win teams can get in the playoffs and who they knock out. So anyway,
Good point there. And like, I think it says it in the name, but the diesel size name I feel like was a week 5 change. So like
if not earlier,
this was
yeah.
a person this was a person who kind of was recognizing like I think this is not my year and back in it in the mix.
Mhm.
So
All right, let's get into the trade. Let's so spreadsheet stuff, getting it out of the way, Tim. Nope, not that. Nope, not that. Not that. We got trade stuff coming up. Trade stats. We changed the deadline this year. We moved it up a week just to kind of if you look at these numbers here, they were increasing pretty significantly the past few years, kind of leveled off last year at
mm,
what was that, 18 trades, but I think what we did worked a little bit. I know you had a big say in that with the number of trades this year, but you can see that kind of pulled back a little bit, and that flurry of another week of trades didn't didn't occur, which I think overall is good for the league. Nothing too overwhelming. I think everything in moderation. So yeah, 17 trades the past couple of years. We're at 11, 24 versus 36 players involved, and 21 draft picks involved versus 28, and no vetoes. Everyone's getting along, so that's good.
yeah. Um I mean, number one, look at you. This is great. We're talking about a 1 year sample size, but I think if you ask the league what they wanted these graphs to look like this year, it was kind of like, hey, can we return to a couple years ago, which is what happened. Um,
Hmm.
like you can't guarantee that it's going to deliver this more moderate level of trading, but I do think it was a factor, and I think the best example is I declared my flurry of trades. I looked ahead at my schedule. I just was reading the tea leaves of the players that I had available and who was healthy. Tried to keep things going with a win now trade of getting Chuba Hubbard, trading away a win later player like Pacheco. Gave it a go, and still at a certain point had to declare pretty early, not my year, I'm trading. But the evidence of this is when I did that, Shea was on these airwaves and he was saying, "Whoa, man, that feels early." And it's like, that's the point. It is
Hmm.
early. Like you do have to make that call if you're going to sell. And I think that has contributed to why we have 9 teams in the hunt because with 1 week earlier, it's harder to tell if you're out of it or still got a shot, and that's going to cut down on your trades.
Right, right. All right, so let's get into it. So the desktop version, which what we're looking at, I can't filter it, but if you go on the app, it's pretty awesome where you can go through the recent activity and just
Hmm.
filter through teams and how many moves they made throughout the year in trade. So are you able to do that? Are you familiar with
Yeah,
that?
I'll pull it up.
Okay. So we had the first trade. A lot of this, I'm going to let you dictate a lot of this because I think every other trade, if not more, was involved. You were involved. So, um, the we kicked things off back in September with that Chuba Hubbard Pacheco trade.
Yeah. So the Chuba Hubbard Pacheco trade, noteworthy that there were no picks in this trade. So this is between myself and I mean Danny's banged gang. Shout out to the married man, number one, but number two, just simply the best in terms of comedy. Always bringing it. Um, so love the team name. He changed it, and it's excellent. Um, but yeah, with this trade, it was me going for a win now trade, him going for a win later trade. This was coming off of Pacheco breaking his damn leg. It was a fibula fracture, I believe. Um, and at that time, Jonathan Brooks, who was on my roster, was hitting that activation window from IR. The belief was that the Carolina Panthers, who I think used either like they used a high pick to get
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan Brooks. Um, So it operated under that conceit of like our team sucks. We have this awesome new running back coming in that we used high draft capital on. We're activating him back from IR. Chuba Hubbard's days are numbered, and I was like, I just want to have a jolt for 1 or 2 weeks of a good running back to see if I have a shot at the playoffs. Turns out, fun fact, Carolina just continues to do head scratching things, and they signed Chuba Hubbard to a big deal. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how that works, and later we all learned that Jonathan Brooks they like have held him out, and I think he'll make his debut after this week's bye. All to say, it really did catch us both are off guard of how much Carolina ended up valuing Chuba Hubbard and how long they were delaying Jonathan Brooks. So I didn't see it coming, but it does seem to this point that I am on the positive side of this trade that I was able to get
Yeah.
value out of Chuba Hubbard for that stretch, and Chuba still has value to be traded, but we'll get to that trade later.
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah.
and I probably the last piece on Pacheco is I really truly did think that he would be back and appetizing to be traded or like if if Polanca needed to get rid of Pacheco later on in the year, I figure he would have that value. I don't think anyone saw it coming that Kareem Hunt would be added to the Kansas City Chiefs and be valuable and make it like a big question mark of what that Chiefs backfield is going to look like in the back half of this year as they're making a playoff push. So it's just like a lot of things that really didn't make sense of Carolina wanting to keep Chuba Hubbard and the Chiefs suddenly finding this jolt with Kareem Hunt that wasn't even in the league.
Yeah, no one saw Kareem Hunt beat a bell cow. Um, and at best, I think that's why it was tough for Polanca to get rid of Pacheco. At best, I think it's a committee moving forward once he comes back. So yeah, that's. I mean, it's a good smart trade early on where you guys were at, but yeah, I think ultimately it didn't pan out as good as it did with the Chuba side. Next trade early on was myself. I had my running backs this year were struggling. I had Brees Hall, who is now running back too. I had this Rico Dowdle, who I wanted nothing to do with Dallas's offense. Traded for
Good call
Najee
there.
Harris. I traded for Najee Harris. I threw a seventh rounder in there. He was somewhere around like RB 20 at the time, I want to say. So he was having a couple good days, and I didn't really think he was going to be a showstopper or a staple on my team. And I mean, I haven't played him once since I traded for him. He's kind of just like a depth play, and Rico's been good for Polanca. He's had a couple. I think the week after I traded him, he had like 20 points. Dowdle did, and now he's their lead back. So I think with the seventh round pick, I think Polanca would win that. I don't care because I'm happy with depth if I need it. If Kareem Hunt, like I expect to have one or two more weeks with him, and then things get kind of muddy with my team. So I might have to play Najee, but I would be perfectly fine with that because Pittsburgh's good. They're winning games, and you run the ball when you win games, and he's been doing great, good enough. So just don't want Jalen Warren to start taking over. So, any
Well,
comments on that? But that was kind of the thought process there. What do you got?
yeah. So I kind of agree with you that it's like two depth running backs and Polanca coming out on top in terms of draft capital. Um, at the same time, I think it's worth the argument of like, look back at this year's draft and just think about how nasty of a teardrop it is from like even just the second round to the third round, to the fourth round to the fifth round. Like after you get past the fifth round, you're throwing some darts. So yes, like the numbers of you trade away a seventh, you get a 14th back. Yes, but you are at kind of that like second half of the draft where it's really question marks all over the place of how much value really is there in the second half draft pick that you give away. Um, and Najee, I think too, a lot of question marks of when Russell Wilson was coming back. Was it going to be more of the dump offs to Jalen Warren? Was Najee going to get phased out? Arthur Smith being that OC, like all he does is confuse fantasy owners. So there was some risk involved, and Jalen Warren just can't stay healthy. I think he's got a back this week again. So
Yeah,
like, um, if you had me say like, which running back do you want right now? I'm like, give me Najee Harris, especially after the Dak Prescott being out for the year now. So
yeah,
this one, I didn't anticipate we'd get this deep into it, but it's probably close to a fair trade. And actually, like I think arguments are to be made of who won.
yeah. I'm not hurting, nor do I think anything is overwhelming in that. So, next, I think there is a winner in this. I would say is you trading for Christopher Godwin and sending off DJ Moore, which I'm glad I didn't trade for DJ Moore. I was trying to.
Worth noting, worth noting that there were multiple people looking for DJ Moore, and I believe, and like there, here's the thing about trading is like as I have done it the most of any team because I'm doing poorly in the league for the past 5 years. Um, you want it to hurt. You want it like you want to be trading a player when you're like, this guy looks good. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, he was looking good. There were multiple people who wanted DJ Moore. There's one thing though, that's a homer, is we're a Chicago league. So it's like people wanted DJ Moore. Vibes were good. We were playing the worst teams in the league now that we look back, that the
Yeah.
Bears were playing trash teams,
Hmm.
but there were good vibes. DJ Moore was looking awesome, and probably my pessimism as a Bears fan, I was just like, I don't know if this is gonna continue on. Yeah, I'm cool with trying to deal here, and that competition of multiple people wanting DJ Moore is what drove up the price, and that's where we land of a third round pick that I get back when trading away DJ Moore. Worth noting, I give an eighth in return, not a 14th or 13th. Um,
Yeah.
but yes, I
Top
would say
top three pick
that's a
though.
when we look now at the absolute mess that the Bears offense is and how they're probably, I think, bottom five in offensive DVOA, firing of Shane Waldron. Yeah, this is definitely the low point of the stock for DJ Moore.
Yeah. Keep it rolling, Tim. We
Uh,
we got a Diggs trade.
yeah, and one comment too of
Yeah.
Godwin done for the year.
Is
I'm
he
always asking for like, you know, for keeping the player numbers even to make sure that the trades go through. I'm like, just give me the guy you want least. It was Godwin, which I look at it, I'm like, potential keeper third round. I don't know if it comes back and Baker's still alive. We'll see. But um, that dead guy's gonna stay on my roster for the rest of the year, most likely. All
well,
right,
he was number one in or top five wide receiver when he went down. So yeah, I mean that's
it's tough. Old guys, bad ankles on an old team, so we'll see. But um, all right. Now we get into a trade which is a clear as day. Give me a high round draft pick. I'll give you a low round draft pick um, and a good player. This is, I believe, well, if we're ranking the most clear and obvious win trades, this is me winning this trade of
Mhm.
trading away Stefan Diggs, getting a third rounder in return from the Nog from Danny
Mhm.
Boyle. Stefan Diggs went out for the year that week. So that is just horrendous timing.
I was gonna ask how soon after did he go down?
It was immediate. So
That's
I
tough.
felt absolutely terrible, but it was like Steph Diggs was looking awesome in Houston. Like I think I was able to draft him in the third round this year's draft because people kind of thought of him as a locker room cancer type guy. I was just like, no, he's going to be a captain on this team, and I think he's like actually a valued culture member, um, and that's what he was. Then Nico goes down, so now Houston's really leaning on him, and this is before Houston has kind of turned into like a okay offense, like a probably like bottom half offense. Like they're not the shiny
Yeah.
toy that they were last year. So just some factors that you couldn't have seen coming where at the time it was like this high powered CJ Stroud offense is missing Nico Collins, but is going to lean heavy into Stefan Diggs, who has proven to be a strong leader on this team. Like that was the time and context at which we made the trade, and then he died immediately.
It
So
happens.
sorry to Dan Boyle.
Um, keep the train rolling. We got the I would probably call it the blockbuster of the season.
Another one. All right, so I'm in this one again. This is me and Grolls. So,
Thanks for keeping our stats up this year.
keep, keep the water flowing. Okay. So I got a second round pick and Pop Douglas from New England, who's fun because I want to see him play out with Drake May, but like he would be a fifth round keeper. I'm not keeping Pop Douglas. So really, it's me getting a second round pick. Um, I trade away Christian McCaffrey, Jalen Waddle. Um, there were multiple people looking out for Christian McCaffrey as well. That did help with the price. I'm kind of interested. I mean, there's one point of this that Jalen Waddle is like the most frustrating fantasy player to have on your roster. Tyreek Hill, you're waiting for him to get injured and call it quits on the season. That could propel Jalen Waddle, but I think like Jalen Waddle in terms of PPR points is at the same level as Jonnu Smith, the tight end on Miami. So like
Yeah.
that's where he's at this year. Makes you pull your hair out. Um, but Jalen Waddle at the time was about to get Tua back, and that gave some perceived value to Jalen Waddle. I was fearing that Miami might just be out of playoff contention as an NFL team by this point in the season. And I think they're one or two wins away, but they're going to play some easy teams coming up here. All right. Then Christian McCaffrey, who does Groles have Jordan?
He does.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. Mason. Yeah.
yeah, he has Jordan Mason. So this was securing the San Fran backfield with all of the injuries that that team has. Getting McCaffrey back, they're going to lean on him heavily. You've got Jordan Mason as that backup. So really, we've sifted through a lot, but it's a second round pick for McCaffrey and kind of seeing that Waddle has been a letdown. So just distill this down to second round pick for McCaffrey, which I want to pass that to you of like where do you think this trade fell in terms of who's winning or prospects of winning on the year?
Yeah. I don't think we know yet just because, well, McCaffrey had a good day the other day, right? When he came back. Um, I don't, Waddle's all speculative. Second round, I mean, it's relatively even in my opinion. I think if McCaffrey has a very strong end and helps Growley in the playoffs, I would say he won,
Yeah.
but not by. I mean, that's only because he gave away a second and not a first, and that's also what's weighing on that is the two firsts that Ford
What
got
are we,
for
what
picks.
we're where we're going with the rest of this.
Yeah,
Yes.
so yeah, I really didn't think twice because I think soon we're coming up to that trade, but a second for McCaffrey to go week what 9 through 17 I think is would be Crowley would see that as a win. I don't consider the others to factor in. Maybe Waddle turns out to be a game changer, and that would make it even better.
Yeah.
But I mean, second round for you for a guy who was injured at the time, and you don't know who's already been delayed his return. Like again, that's a win. So I don't know. I thought it was a fine trade.
Yeah. I could see it being a thing of like maybe McCaffrey really rounds into shape at that playoff run, and then it can be a thing that people complain about of second round pick for McCaffrey, and he's this league winner.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, he's paying for like 5 weeks of performance. Like it's trying to remind like it's how he timed getting this player back. With a lot of risk and question marks of are these Achilles going to hold up from this experimental treatments he's getting overseas? Like
Right.
he took on a lot of risk, and let's just say he goes off in the BAMS playoffs. The last thing I would say is it was obvious I was selling McCaffrey, and if you wanted McCaffrey, you would have given up a
Mm-hmm.
first round draft pick, which sounds absolutely like an insane thing to do at the time. No one was going to do that because of all of the risk I just talked about. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I could see some recency bias around the playoffs around it. Like, how did this trade happen? But it's like, there's lots of reasons why.
Some hindsight, folks.
Hindsight, thank you. Yes.
Yeah. All right. I don't know how much time. Oh, we've 8 minutes, so let's
We're gonna
cruise.
power these
Yeah.
8 minutes here. I'm
Josh
in another
Allen.
trade, and I'll go super fast on this. It's me
Yep.
trading away Josh Allen um, to the Fiana for a third round pick. Josh Allen's a top five quarterback. If we redrafted this year, Josh Allen would go in the second or third round again. Oh, that's the man who's seeing a baby for sure.
I'm going
Um,
to bed. Isn't that time? Good night.
um, this looks super straight up. Just like Josh Allen's a really good quarterback. You have him now, and you gave me a third round pick.
I like it. He is a very sure thing. Um, I'm I have a view of it because I just picked up Kyler, who Jay just dropped.
Oh, yeah.
So I have that view of it of like, did he need to send a third for Josh Allen if he would have stuck with Kyler, who's now playing better? But I also get,
Opportunity cost.
yeah. So again, it's going to be a hindsight thing. But at the time, I know Kyler wasn't playing great. So, um, and Josh Allen is. So I don't hate it one bit.
We don't have time
Um,
to waste, but something about Kyler being short when he's playing poorly and he's a short man, you're just like it hurts you so much more. And you're
yeah,
just like, well, from a morale standpoint of owning him on fantasy, you're like, this just sucks.
it's
Give
like
me a give me a
why do I
diesel
even have
bro.
him? Yeah.
So, um, but
we're
yeah,
gonna
no,
cru-
that is a good point.
we're gonna cruise through these others, but I have a few points I just want to make
Please.
just to get them in. Number one, there's a well here. Do you see this screen here with the draft picks that I have up?
Yeah.
So this is just kind of a visual of where everyone ends up with picks. Ford ended up with 2 first rounds, which is going to be hilarious next draft when he has 3 first round picks and see
Yep.
what he does with them and who of those three stay healthy. And he's going to be in the limelight next year, which is going to be fun. But this is just a visual. You got your 12 picks in the top seven. How many third rounds do you have? Three
Four.
plus yours. So you're going to have a fun third round. You have another second round. So just again, like I said, just something to see for everyone. Nick, oh, he's got seven because that's a good segue to my next point. Uh, if I don't win, I'm rooting for Nick Starr because he made zero moves. He has
Yeah.
made he has made this is another big stat thing that I'm doing that he's made 4 moves all year and he is just killing it. He just continues to win. Is he in first place? Yeah, he's in first place. Points for I know he's up there, I know, but he's just run a clean season so far.
Yes. This is um classic Zintac always making the points of it's about team management, it's about moves
Yes.
within the year. So like yeah, it makes perfect sense that you're locked into this team. And yeah, anecdotally, very funny to be reaching out to Nick Starr during my selling time and him just be like, yeah, no. Like, he was just not interested at all. And I love it. I mean, I really back to my point earlier of like everybody gets so freaked out about all these blockbuster trades and is it fair? And it's just like I don't know. There's
Yeah.
lots of movement that's helping teams. There's movement that's hurting teams. There are these steady Eddie teams that are also finding success. Like it's a mixed bag.
Yeah. So last point on that, the league isn't won at the draft, but it sure as hell could this year if it pans out for her.
Yeah. All
So
right. So with us having 4 minutes, we gotta
yes.
hammer that. Ford um, pays the highest price in the history of the league, matching what I did a couple years ago, which is just saying I want the best player in fantasy, and I'm willing to give up a first round pick for it. So
Yeah.
for him going to you, or sorry, you going to him,
Mm-hmm.
getting Saquon, the number one player in fantasy, giving up a first round pick, aligning with the precedent that has been set before in this league of the right price for that number one overall fantasy player for the back half of the season. Any extra on that?
Um, yeah, a little not buyer's remorse is the term, but I felt like I left some on the table. Negotiations go back and forth. I treated draft picks like monopoly money this year, and I just said to him, it was the first text, and I'm just like Barkley in a first and Roshan, and he was just like, I kind of like that. It's one of those things where they take it right away, and you're just like, shit, should I have offered a second or at least tried to figure something out? But no, I was perfectly fine with it. Um, it's a unique year with running backs, those top running backs staying healthy. I wanted to be a part of that more. Brees Hall isn't doing it. He's fine as a running back too. But no, I'm happy with it. I think Ford's happy with the first. And I got a sixth too. That's kind of a win for me. I thought maybe he'd push back a little more, maybe like a seventh or eighth. So getting a sixth, I felt, I guess, empowered, as you'd say.
Good footnote. I hadn't realized that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and just funny what's happening with Roshan in these trades. We will get to that as well. But to me, it's like it's a cut and dry trade. Just
Mm-hmm.
I want the best player. Here's a first round pick. Done.
Yeah.
So um, that all made sense to me, which gets us to Alvin Kamara going.
Mm-hmm.
I thought we had the highest price ever paid for a player, but then it gets topped. So
Yes.
now we go for a player that's more of if we redrafted today would be maybe the 12th or 13th player off the board. Maybe the fifth best running back. And we're paying a higher price. We're going first round pick and fifth round pick. I guess we could say that Roshan, I don't know what's going on here. We got a minute left, but for
That's
me,
right.
I was like, I don't know who Ford. What was the price, or who was another person who was gonna pay more than a first round pick for
Uh,
Alvin Kamara? That's the question mark. But hey, shout out Ford. He gets another first round pick, trading away another high profile running back, and now he's got three first round picks next year.
yeah.
Trading with Derek's rad team.
Chuba moves again. I'm assuming there was nothing more there with our time, less than a minute. Chuba moves from McMillan in a sixth. Um, I like it. Boyle says now, Chuba's relevant. He needs another running back. Gives away six. I think that's great. I think Chuba's a good play for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and that was a bad. I think he wins that trade because they signed. This was karma for him.
Oh,
Panthers signed that contract with Chuba the day after that our trade went through. So redemption for the Stefan Diggs loss that he had a little bit early.
and that was what a game segment.
There we go.
I don't know. So the last one is Evans for a ninth. That's kind of betting on Jay betting on him coming back. Then